talk to two groups of people who are on the stage playing in the orchestra, very highly visible. For the third session, I wanted to talk to two people who are indispensable to what's happening in this project, but whom actually, well, if you were in the open rehearsal, you might have seen one of them, maybe not the other, but both of them very busy while the orchestra is rehearsing. Please welcome Volker Krafft and Phil Rowlands. So, Volker first, would you like to tell us what you do, what your title is? What is my title? I don't know.
My title is, well, some of you have been in the open rehearsal this afternoon and might have seen running me around in the hall. I'm one of the two assistants to Jaap, and I'm as well, together with Albert, I'm not talking about position and title, we're both musical assistants and vocal coaches, basically. So we both have these two books, which you can see in my hands. The big one, yellow one, and the thin one. So basically the big one is a reprint of Jaap's score, also of the full score of the entire orchestra, which Jaap is using. And we sit in the hall and just listen and give Jaap feedback about the balance between orchestra and singers, because of course he has probably the worst seat, the worst position to enjoy the evening. So it's just these constant feedback. So we are basically the ones who are responsible to make the evening a nice experience for you. So if you can't hear the singers, it's basically our fault.
And tell us just before we move on a little bit about that term vocal coach, because when I think of when we think of coaching, we probably think of somebody at the side of the basketball court, or someone who's shouting instructions at the team on who has that kind of role. Is that what you're doing in a way?
It's a bit that, but of course shouting doesn't really work because singers tend to be very sensitive.
I thought you were going to say noisy.
Noisy. So you can't shout at them, otherwise they would shout back. So you have to coach them in a very diplomatic way. And so basically the coaching is, in my case, because I am German, to correct the German pronunciation, to make sure the phonetics are right for the recording especially, which Phil will make happy. And I don't know, this year we have got only 3 German native speakers in the cast. And for example, Siegfried, he sings like 4 hours of music. He's from New Zealand, doesn't speak German, has a very good phonetical German, but I'm just there to help him, correct him, give him constant feedback whether I understand him or not. And before the orchestra and the singers come together, we usually have 2 days. We have this year 2 days with the piano. So Jaap meets the singers at the piano, I sit at the piano, I play what the orchestra plays, and they discuss tempi, transitions, do little agreements, and well, hope they will be working with the orchestra.
That's great. And now Phil, you're doing a similar kind of activity,
yeah,
but quite different also. Tell us what you're doing.
Well, as you say, my role is largely the same as Volker's, but from the point of view of creating a recording which people will listen to afterwards. So it lasts forever, not just a transitory experience in the concert hall. But my whole approach is to try and recreate the experience of what the audience hears and sees. Try and capture the excitement. So initially, in the initial stages, I'm very much in the background, giving occasional notes, very much like Volker and Albert. I can hear the balance. It sounds different to me than it does in the audience.
Yes, because you've got a huge number of microphones there, and I must say, when I look at the stage, I think, wow, how many of those are you listening to at the one time? Are they all on? Can you all hear them all?
More or less, yeah. Inevitably, you put up more mics than you need. So, especially for the singers, you never quite know where they're going to stand, how they're going to position themselves. But the thinking is that as long as you have enough coverage, so that you can pick them up from any direction, then you'll be safe. But I'm using something like, I don't know, 40 microphones, maybe more, 50. And most of them are actually in constant use. But it's a question of getting a balance between the sort of main microphones and then little detailed spots for other aspects of the music.
And you said you're hearing in that way quite differently from us because the microphones are very close, I guess, and you're getting a lot of detail. If you want, you can hear things very detailed. And I also, you're looking at it from the point of view of a product or a thing which will last forever. And Volker, you're looking at this from the hall, I guess. You're looking at what the audience is, what we're going to get when we sit there. So do you have different priorities? Do you have different, do you have disagreements actually about how something should be done?
Basically, we are enemies. Yeah, interesting question. Of course, I mean, Phil is much more picky on details because he has to make sure everything is together, every word is correct, and of course, in a live performance, as we know, things happen, mistakes happen, and I'm more of a I'm responsible for the performance, to make the performance be great and enjoyable and unique. But then, of course, I always have to keep in mind as well, being in the hall during these rehearsals now, that there might be problems or like intonation problems somewhere or singers coming in wrong, which will bother Phil in the performances because he's the one who has to make it, yeah, as you say, a lasting thing. So I'll try to help Phil as much as I can, but without losing any of the spontaneity of the live performance.
Okay. And so tell us, okay, this is our very first Siegfried in Hong Kong. You work and have worked in opera houses. How many times have you worked on Siegfried?
Not that often. I'm not that old yet. We don't do like Siegfried every day, every year. Once or twice, maybe? Once or twice?
Okay.
Not that often.
And Phil, how many times have you recorded this opera?
This is my second time. So, I mean, as an engineer and producer, it's rare to be able to record The Ring at all. And I was fortunate enough to record one in 2004 in Adelaide. It was a slightly different situation. It was there's proper staged productions. Actors were moving about the stage. And there was no patching. We have this term patching, which...
tell us what happens in a patch.
Well, the ideal situation is to capture the excitement of the live performance, but inevitably, not everything goes to plan. So there'll often be little inaccuracies or little mistakes that singers and conductor will want to correct, and I might have my own comments about what isn't quite working yet. So we reserve time after the performances. 2 blocks of sessions a day just to go over things that we think could be improved, and then we, in a studio kind of environment, we have a dialogue and we fix these things.
And so yeah, so the patch it's literally like a patching
like a
jacket or
yeah, exactly. Like so, imagine a patchwork quilt. You know,
yeah.
You stitch in the desired portions of the opera that you want to put in to really enhance the experience for the listener. I mean, you know, it lasts forever, a recording, and you don't want to kill it. You don't want to sort of you want it to be alive still. So the trick is to try and keep it flowing and moving like performance, but still to get the ideal performance out of it.
Well, Volker, Phil, thank you so much for everything you're doing for us in this project. We really appreciate having you around, and we enjoy having you around. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed that insight into what's going on while we prepare for Siegfried. So that concludes the 3 short sessions, the 3 jigsaw puzzles. I hope you've enjoyed that, and now I pass back to Brendan.